found this video, you probably already know that vintage clothing can be one of the most lucrative niches for clothing resellers, but you might be confused of what items to look for. And in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you 10 of the best vintage clothing BOLOs. These are items that are really in demand to help you see bigger profit margins. Now, before we get started, you might be wondering who I am. My name is LeeMeier. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4, and I've made well over $100,000 net profit flipping used clothes and other items on sites like eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. And vintage clothing has been a big piece of that mix. And I'm on a mission to be able to help as many resellers as I can now be able to hit that $100,000 mark for themselves. To help you out and to help you get there faster, I've got a ton of free goodies for you. You'll find them down here in the description below this video. This is where you're gonna find things like my keywords list, my list of best brands, as well as a link to be able to sign up for my free $100,000 reseller challenge. So let's go ahead and dive on in to the first vintage clothing BOLO that is selling really well right now. And this one might surprise you. This first item to be on the lookout for are paper thin t-shirts. These are shirts that are made out of very thin see-through material, and the demand for these types of shirts for both men's and women's is high, especially with men's. This first item that I've got for you is actually an unbranded t-shirt that sold on Poshmark for $75. It has a family picnic there on the front. It also has a hole at the neck. And with a lot of these shirts, because they are paper thin, you're gonna see holes like that. Don't let that deter you from picking up those items to sell. This next item was also sold on Poshmark by the same seller, Brownie Sunday. Brownie Sunday is selling a lot of these. And I like what he or she has done with these photos. And it's such a good idea to take the photos in front of a window to see the amount of light that is let through. It's going to take a little bit more effort versus maybe your regular photo station, but doing it in front of a window really helps the buyer see what they're getting and see how thin that is, which is what they're shopping for. That's what they're looking for. And this t-shirt that you're looking at, it's a tour t-shirt from Human Rights Now. This was made by Reebok and it sold for $60. And then over on eBay, there are a lot of these paper thin shirts selling as well. Now I accidentally hit to sort from low to high when I was researching comparable sales. And I did want to quickly point this out because this is a big mistake that a lot of new resellers make, is starting auctions at a penny or 99 cents. And for most items, that doesn't work. There has to be an extremely high demand to be able to start bids that low and expect to be able to make a profit. So I did want to point these out so that you don't make the same mistake. And it's a good reminder to always research your comps, price your items accordingly. And if you're wondering if you should go for an auction listing or a fixed price listing, then make sure to subscribe because I'll be having a future video come out soon where I will cover that very topic. Now, a sale over here on eBay. This is an Olympia beer t-shirt. This one is full of stains. It has a rip at the shoulder seam. It also has a large section of hem that is completely torn. And this one sold for the full asking price of almost $180. Now, I do want to mention on the material tag, it does say Dacron. That is actually a really good clue and a way to be able to identify vintage for yourself. I do have a video I'm going to link to up here where I walk you through various ways to be able to identify vintage. The second BOLO item when it comes to vintage is what is called dead stock. These are old items that are not made anymore, but they're new with the tags. And the tags are usually that dead giveaway that these items are older. You're gonna see things like handwriting on the tags. You're gonna see maybe stamps on the tags. I'll show you some examples of that here in a second. But with a lot of these dead stock items, you don't necessarily need to worry about having a mainstream brand. This first sale that we're looking at is over on Poshmark, and this is a beaded blouse from a brand that's called Lawrence Kazar. This one sold for $50, and I want you to notice on the tag that it is handwritten and that the style name is stamped on there. This is another sale over on Poshmark that is a women's button-up shirt from the brand Villager. This one sold for $50 as well. Note that the shoulder pads are attached there inside of the item. You're gonna see that with a lot of older items, those shoulder pads inside of the women's clothing. Now with the tags, I want you to note that the edges of those tags are perforated and a lot of those numbers on the tags are stamped. And then I've got a little bit newer item over on eBay to show you. This is a pair of men's jeans from the brand Bugle Boy, and these sold for $75. These tags obviously don't look quite so old as the others. But again, it's a good reminder that if you come across any items that are new with tags, if the tags do look a little bit on the older side, there's a good chance that there's a demand for those items, even if you don't necessarily recognize the brand. Again, look up those comps before you go and make any sourcing decisions. The third vintage BOLO item are grunge items. This one is a little bit harder to define, but it has to do with more of the look of the item. And this grunge look really stemmed from grunge music from around the late 80s to early 1990s. But the fashion grunge is still going strong, especially with men's clothes. You're gonna see a lot of baggy fits, a lot of oversized clothes. You're gonna see flannel shirts, distressed jeans, t-shirts, beanies. And this first item that I have for you on Poshmark is a t-shirt that sold for $53, and it has the word Toltec on the front. I'm not exactly sure what that is. The back has got a skull as well as crossbones, and I love the description that this seller used. It says insane fade and thrashed even better. This is a Hanes heavyweight tag, not the greatest of photos, but if you do come across those Hanes tags that are either heavyweight or they say made in the USA, chances are you're gonna wanna do a little bit more research, and that could be a valuable find. The next item that I've got for you sold on Poshmark as well, and this is a Gap velvet skirt. It does not scream vintage, but it definitely fits with the grunge aesthetic. And that's really the power of these aesthetic style-based keywords, is it helps you get an item that's maybe a little bit more plain, like this black skirt, and then get it in front of the right buyers that are looking for those aesthetics. This one sold for $60, and I also want to note that on Poshmark, you have the ability to have style tags. And so this seller used style tags of 90s, grunge, as well as emo. If you would love to be able to learn more about these aesthetic keywords or be able to have a resource that allows you to type up your descriptions and titles in a matter of seconds, then you're gonna wanna check out my keyword style poster. This next item is over on eBay, and this is a Faded Glory men's hoodie with skulls on it. And this one sold for $80, but there's some of these selling for as much as $100. Unfortunately, this one does have the tag cut out of it. And with this one, you're not seeing grunge in the title, but it is in the item specifics under theme. And if you're having trouble with slow sales, keywords can be one of the best things to turn your sales around quickly. I am going to link to a video up here if you're looking for more keywords like this that you can go and plug into your listings and see your sales start to turn around. The next vintage BOLO are union made items. Any items that you come across that are union made, there's a good chance that those items could be a very good return on your investment. Over on Poshmark, this is an ILGWU dress. That's International Ladies Garment Workers Union. This is a gorgeous dress with satin fabric, puff sleeves, ruching, a rosette there at the waist, and that one sold for $100. This is another ILGWU item that is one of the more common unions that you will come across when it comes to clothing. And this is a 2-piece wool skirt and jacket set, and this one sold for $90. There are lots of different unions, and not all of the union names are going to be specifically on the item. They may just say union made. Over on eBay, this is a pair of overalls, and it does say union made there on the tag along with the brand name, which is Hercules. And this pair of overalls sold for $101.99. Next, single stitch t-shirts. Single stitching usually indicates that the item is older. Not always, but most single stitch items are. There are newer brands that are using this just because they know that buyers are out there looking for this feature. Over on Poshmark, this is a t-shirt. It says "Ciao Baby." This one sold for $49. I'm not sure on the brand on this one. This one also does not have the best picture of that single stitch. I'll show you that here in a second, a little bit better picture if you're wondering what single stitch is and how to be able to identify that. This next one is another t-shirt that sold on Poshmark with Miami Vice on it. It does have several stains, but this t-shirt sold for $45. And over on eBay, there are a ton of single stitch t-shirts selling from $50 all the way up to $200+. This is a super interesting t-shirt, all over print with single stitching. It has the chief sitting bull on it. I'm not sure the whole story behind this shirt, but it did have 8 bids and it sold for $218.50, and bids were started at $100. Next, vintage bolo are Y2K items. Any items from Y2K that you come across, chances are that there is a really good demand for those items, whatever they are, if they're for men or for women. But I do find that the demand for men's items actually does tend to be a little bit higher in this category. Over on Poshmark, this is a sold pair of shoes from the brand Skechers. This is a style that is known as jammers. These are super popular and there are a ton of these selling. These sold for $49, but these are an easy $40 to $60 sale. And there's a ton of different Y2K shoes selling, by the way. I do have a video I'm gonna link to up here if you're interested in learning about other Y2K styles and brands that are selling. Next is another sale on Poshmark that is from Abercrombie & Fitch. This is a mini skirt that sold for $148. There is a huge demand for these types of skirts, and note that this is a 00. So just because it is a very, very tiny size doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to sell. There was demand for this, and that again is sold for $148. If you're looking for even more mall brands that are selling for crazy amounts, then you're gonna want to check out this video. Now, over on eBay, when it comes to Y2K items, the demand is definitely there again for both men and women. And this is a Harley Davidson t-shirt from Atlantic City. This one actually had 30 bids on it and it sold for $118.50. Next, Salvage Denim. Salvage Denim usually indicates that the item is either older or it's from a premium brand. Current high-end brands are making jeans out of salvage denim, but you're gonna see salvage denim a lot more commonly in older vintage jeans. You're gonna see this commonly in brands like Levi's as well as Lee. And if you're wondering what salvage denim is, it's just a finished denim. So the edges are finished, and the easiest way to be able to identify these is to roll up the cuff and see if the edges of the material are finished. You're usually going to see a red line, not always, but that red line is very common. If you're seeing a finished edge on that denim, then that is salvage denim. This is a pair of Levi's with salvage denim, and this one sold for about $80. Real quick, I want to invite you to check out the Empowered Reseller membership program. This is where resellers are getting the biggest results, the biggest profits, and the fastest sales. Every month, my VIPs get free access to a new sourcing box. This is a deep dive into a lucrative clothing niche designed to help them source more profitable items to make more sales and to make more money on every single item. The membership also comes with the entire Empowered Reseller course vault, our VIP community, as well as access to me for live trainings. I even do things like store reviews, account reviews for my VIPs. Down in the description below this video is where you'll find the link to be able to check it all out for yourself, and I hope to be able to welcome you as a VIP into our community soon. Next, Cottage Core items. This is another one of those aesthetic-based keywords, and it's really about the look of the item. With Cottage Core, you're gonna see a lot of floral prints. You're gonna see tiered dresses and skirts in maxi length, and it can even incorporate things like knit sweaters. This first item that I have for you is from Poshmark. This one sold for $55, and this is a button-up midi dress from the brand Dennis Goldsmith. This is another sale over on Poshmark that used the term Cottage Core. This is actually a handmade floral dress that sold for $81. Because it's handmade, there's no size tag, there's no material tag. So that is a good reminder that just because a tag might be missing, or if it's a handmade item, there is no tag, don't just automatically pass over those. Some of those items can be really profitable. Go ahead and include dimensions and an approximate size, and those items usually always sell. Over on eBay, this is a sweater vest, and this one sold for $60. This does have embroidery on it, what looks to be crewel embroidery, and the seller did use the keyword Nordic, but to me this looks a little bit more from South America. Again, $60 for this item with a best offer. Next vintage bolo are any items that are made in the USA. Now that does not necessarily mean the item is vintage, because there are current brands that are made in the USA today, but when you come across tags that are made in the USA, there's a very high chance that that is a vintage item. It was right around the turn of the millennium when a lot of items started being manufactured in countries outside of the USA. This is an example of a made in the USA item. This is a Peanuts scrub top in size extra large, and this one sold for $40. This is another sale over on Poshmark that is a Hawaiian beer shirt. This one sold for $85 from the brand Barefoot in Paradise. This is 100% cotton. It's made in the USA. It's also a size 6XL. So a reminder there, if you do come across those big sizes, those especially big sizes like a 6XL, those are almost always a surefire large profit ROI. And then this is a pair of Levi's 501s. These are an easy $70 to $100 if you come across these that have a tag that say made in the USA. This one that you're looking at here sold for $89 for the full asking price. And I saved one of my favorite vintage bolos for last. This is one that I find that a lot of resellers skip over, pass over, maybe they don't know about it. And this makes a really great sourcing opportunity, especially if you're a new reseller, because even professional sellers pass these types of items over. And these are vintage bags. Now there's all different types of vintage bags that are selling, and the return on these, the profit on these is high. This first one that you're looking at is a Juicy Couture bag that sold on Poshmark. This is from approximately the Y2K era in hobo style, and this one sold for $112 with flaws. And there's lots of these selling for right around that $100 to even $200+ mark. That hobo style is really popular for Y2K bags, as well as the baguette style. This next sale is over on Poshmark as well, and this is a tapestry bag. This is actually what is called kalim. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but it is a flat woven pileless rug, and these are common with bags, and there is a demand for these. This bag sold for $51. And tapestry, whatever kind of tapestry it is, there really is a demand for that style right now. The other type of vintage bags that I just love are any bags for men, whether they're leather bags or leather trim bags with canvas. These can be big sellers. It can be an easy $100 to even $200+ And this is a leather bag for men that sold over on eBay. This is from a brand that is called Whipping Post, and this one sold for $120 plus $19 of shipping. So I would love to know, what is your favorite vintage item to be on the lookout for? Go ahead and drop it in the comments below, and I would love to be able to hear from you. If you're looking for even more vintage items to flip, then you're gonna wanna check out my complete guide to selling vintage clothing, where you get over 150 different clothing brands and items to be on the lookout for. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video. And if you're looking for some of those aesthetic-based keywords that we mentioned, I'm gonna go ahead and link to the next video that is gonna walk you through some of the most in-demand style-based keywords. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video soon.